Good morning, everybody. I know you can hear me. I'm Elizabeth Gillis, and I'm a committee member for the Life at the Forest, and this is our second week. And Karen Henry, who is Director of Finance and Treasurer, will be our speaker this morning. Karen has served as a director at the Forest since 2005. And also serves as a treasurer and the assistant secretary to the corporation's board of directors. We refer to that as the big board, by the way. She is responsible for the accounting and financial administration of the forest, as well as assisting with budgeting and long-range planning. She holds a BS in business administration with a major in accounting from Shippensburg University of Pennsylvania. She began her career as an audit professional with KPMG. She began her career as an audit professional, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and continued similar work with Hershey Foods Corporation in Hershey, Pennsylvania. She then spent 5 years in the clinical research industry at Quintiles Transnational Corporation in increasing roles of responsibility. She is a member of the North Carolina Association of Certified Public Accountants. Welcome, Karen.
Hey. Well, good morning, everyone. How are you doing? I'm not used to these really big rooms. We usually have them in a little kind of smaller room. I like smaller settings because then it helps me to see, are you like getting what I'm talking about or are you not? You know, like you kind of get that connection, but that's all okay. Can everybody hear me? Yep, okay, good. So again, a big welcome to all of you. And for those who may not know me, I think we had some new people here. I want to give you this opportunity to tell you like what my philosophy is as an accountant and how I share that with the members of my team. So has anybody taken an accounting class before? Don't be shy. It's not a bad thing. Yeah. Okay, so like what did they really tell you that accountants are supposed to do? What we do. Absolutely. But it's like the information is supposed to be like timely, accurate, right? Confidential? Okay. Well, I take that a step further. How I really think about things is what I do is really not anything to me. What I do is I collect information, I report information for other people to use. And if people don't understand the information that I give, what good is it, right? So that is what my philosophy has been in my whole career and what I instill in my staff. So that's what's really important to me. And as she said, I've been here a long time, and I really love the forest. I've been here 20 years. I can't believe that. I think I said I started when I was 5. But when I started, I didn't need these readers either. So that, I'm a little bit older now. But I've really been involved in this series that you see now, and maybe you might not be aware of this Life at the Forest series. We started this back in, I believe, 2013 as a result of a resident satisfaction survey where, a lot of residents said, well, we wanted to know more about the different departments and what you do and how you interact with us. So I was really involved with that program, and we've tailored it through the years. I started with 3 presentations, now I have 2, broke it down into 2 of those. But what I want to tell you is that if you have any feedback about these, please let us know, because these are for you. They're not for us. So that's really important, all right? So let's get started. See if I can use the technology. What I wanted to talk about today, we're going to give you some fast facts, tell you about our finance committees. How do the finances work? The financial structure is based on a contract. What are the benefits to the discounted rates in the health center? and information that is available in the library. We have a $20 million operating budget. We have a $2.5 million capital budget. We have approximately 275 team members, approximately 400 residents. Our bonds are BBB minus Fitch rated. And for those of you who are really investment gurus, you might say, I don't know about that. But that is really, really a great rating for a community like ours. So this puts the forest in a very elite category because there's only 150 out of over 2,000 senior living communities that are even rated. So that's kudos to the forest. We've been CCAC CARF accredited since 2007, and we've had an unqualified audit for all of our years in existence, and that's 33 years. Our board finance committee, they are responsible to provide financial oversight. They oversee the budget and its development, investments, and an independent audit process. They meet at least 4 times a year with a standing agenda to review the financials, investment performance, and ratios. And there is one resident that currently serves on that committee. Our resident finance committee, this is their mission from their charter. They monitor and report to the Residents Association on all financial matters relating to the forest. They meet monthly with me. They discuss such topics as the financial statements, the audit, the actuarial funded status, investment performance, and they meet jointly once a year with our board's finance committee. So when I was first approached by the resident committee in 2013 to develop a presentation, they said to me, "Can you explain how the finances work?" And I said, "Well, absolutely. I don't know if I can do that in an hour, but I am up for the challenge." So that really gives me the opportunity to talk to you about this. And what I want to try to do is just give you a big picture view. There's no numbers, just a big picture. All right. So each year, the budget is approved by the board of directors at their August meeting. Any increases to service fees that are effective October 1st are announced in the letter to residents from the chairman of the board, and that serves as a 30-day notice. Now, as I said in the beginning, my goal is to present information to people so they can understand it. So I try not to use a lot of that accounting lingo when I'm talking, but sometimes I need to. So, and my main goal is that when I try to talk about things and explain things, that maybe they are developing and building upon each other. So what I really like to see is somebody have an aha moment in that light bulb. So hopefully that's going to happen here, all right? So the monthly and entrance fees are charged based on the Forest at Duke's contract. That's your residence and care agreement that you signed. You have a contract in which the entry fees paid allowed for discounted daily rates in the health center. And they can be thought of as a prepayment of health care. So your contract works like an insurance product, which is why the Forest at Duke is regulated by the North Carolina Department of Insurance, and an independent actuary reviews its pricing each year. Do I see some light bulbs? I see some light bulbs? So a portion of the monthly service fees and your entry fees must cover the health care expenses. Therefore, they may be deductible as a medical expense for federal income taxes. The medical deduction letter that states the amount that may be tax deductible is sent to residents by January 31st of each year. Don't use the letter from last year. The number is going to be different because it is based on the operations, the actual operations for that year, and our year end is September 30. All right, so how do the finances work? Just like, when you bake a cake, the budget has ingredients in it. And here are what those things are. First and foremost, what we take into consideration are the services that are contractually promised to you in your residence and care agreement. We also need to have expenditures that are necessary for insurance, regulatory, and audit compliance. And some people affectionately call me the queen of compliance because that is a huge part of my job, is making sure that all of the filings and all the things that we need to do, and there are many of those, we have many regulatory bodies that we report to, are completed. And that goes along with the debt compliance. And then we also have to maintain our accreditations and our certifications. And we have debt service and capital needs, and that's the money that we need to pay for the principal and interest on our outstanding debt and to maintain our physical plant. And one thing to keep in mind is that the forest is a service industry. So when I worked at Hershey Foods, what was my inventory? What was my stuff, my power? The machines, right? Well, our machines are our people. So 70% of all of our operating expenses are related to staff's wages and benefits. Now, some people think that because we're a nonprofit, then revenue minus expense on the income statement should be zero. Well, that's not true. If it was zero, then we wouldn't have any money left over to pay for keeping up with this beautiful building, refurbishing residences, and all of those capital needs. And there was a famous quote from a nun at a Catholic CCRC in Pennsylvania that said, "No margin, no mission." She was pretty feisty. All right, so here came my challenge. When they said, "Karen, please explain, how do the finances work simply?" Okay, so we're gonna try that. I like the number 3. 3 is a good number. So simply put, how the finances work here and how we are able to make sure that we have financial success, there are 3 drivers to that. Number 1 is occupancy. Occupancy is how many people are living in the apartments? How many people are in the cottages? How many people are in the health center? Is that what we budgeted? And with the entry fees, did we move in as many people that we thought that we would? Expense control. Is actual spending in line with what we had budgeted based on the services that we're contracted to perform, and are we making sure that we are fulfilling all of our duties? If all those 3 things align, then I don't need to go into my savings account to pay for other things. And that makes everything kind of copacetic. All the ratios and everything maintains the same. Does that make sense? All right. So the monthly service fees and the healthcare fees, they pay for everyday ongoing expenses like payroll, utilities, and food. A portion of your entry fees pay for debt service and capital needs. So who's new out there? All right, so now you were just shopping. For people who have been here before, did you go shopping too for a CCRC? All right, so when you were shopping, and I'm sure you didn't really need to because this was the best place, right? Absolutely. But when you looked around, I have a lot of even children of future residents or people on the wait list, they'll say, I'm looking at these fee sheets, and how come they all look different? That doesn't make, how come? And then I said, well, how many communities did you go to? Because I bet when you go to those communities, we all kind of look and feel the same, right? Because we offer the same type of services. That is true. But really, what makes us so different is the contract that we offer. And the contract that that senior living community offers, that is going to dictate how their financial structure is and how the fees are done, okay? So what are the 3 types these are the three major types of CCRC contracts. Number one is a type A or extensive contract, and that's where it's really insurance-based because residents pay about the same amount of money throughout the whole continuum. So in that case, the most risk is on the organization. They have to really make sure that their pricing is actuarially priced, right? A type B, or a modified contract, which is what the Forest at Duke and Carroll Woods have, is where there's a shared risk between the resident and the organization because you have those discounted rates, but there still is that insurance factor in there and an actuary price to that. Now, if you're a type C or a fee for service, that's like Crowsdale. The most risk is on the resident because in those type of communities, when they go into the health center, there is no discounted rate. They are paying what the market rate is of that at that point in time. So, for example, at the Forest at Duke, if you are a health center resident, it's about $7,000 a month. If you are in a fee-for-service or standalone skilled nursing facility, it's $15,000 to $20,000. So that is the benefit, as we're talking about, of your discounted healthcare rates. Your prepaid days, I get a lot of questions about how do my prepaid days work? So every resident that signs a residence and care agreement, and if you're a co-resident, a couple, you each have 15 days. And these days are not calendar-based. They're just 15 days that are in your bank, and they can't exceed 15. So how they work is if you use a day, and then you go back to your independent living residence, and you don't go back to the health center, then in 1 month, you will accrue another month back until you get up to 15. So another day back, excuse me. So that's how that works. So you get up to 15. They're not calendar-based. And when you move permanently into the health center, you'll first use your prepaid day account and then begin to pay the daily healthcare rate. Healthcare residents don't need to have prepaid days because that's where they live. All right? Does that make sense? Now, I am a real visual person, so I'm going to give you some examples. Some people came in late. Is anybody missing a handout? Okay, so keep this sheet in front of you because I'm going to try to explain this grid as simply as possible because I know it's confusing to a lot of people. So this is the first thing that I want you to do when you look at this is you have to keep in mind what's important is, are you temporary or are you permanent? Because that's going to drive what the rates are. So what does that mean? So temporary means that you are just temporarily in the health and wellness center. You intend to go back to your independent living residence. You could say you're on vacation. You might be a little sick, but you're on, like say you're on vacation. Like when you go on vacation, you don't stop paying your mortgage, right? It's the same thing. You're holding that. If you are a permanent resident, that means that you no longer have your independent living residence. You've conducted a walkthrough with Nathan, our Director of Community Services, and your new address is in the Health and Wellness Center. So then if you look at some more terminology that's there, on the top it says per diem. Well, what is that? Well, that's what we call a daily rate. When you were in the health center, the rates are charged per day because of the fluidity. You could be out to the hospital, you're there a couple of days, you go back home, so it's per day, whereas independent living is a monthly fee. These are daily. So a per diem is the amount that would be charged to a person who is not a resident, and it's like the Medicare A daily rate. That's what we use for billing Medicare A. So none of you here would ever pay that rate, but that's just what we base the discount on. The current per diem is $579 a day. Now on to what would a resident pay in a particular situation. So 40% of the per diem, the $234 a day, is a daily rate for a single resident that permanently lives in the health center. The 60% of the per diem, or $347 a day, is the daily rate for a resident that has a temporary stay in the health center after utilizing their prepaid days. And then 15% is the very much discounted, is if there is one resident who is part of a couple that still lives in independent living and one is in the apartment or cottage, that health center resident pays $91 a day. Okay, so I'm really a visual person, so I'm going to give you some examples of how this would work, all right? So let's say we have a single independent resident in a one-bedroom apartment. They stay 4 days in the health center, and we'll make it easy. Their prepaid day balance in their bank is 15. What does their bill look like? All right. Now, they're still going to pay their monthly fee, right? Because they're intending to go back. They have not said, I'm going to live in the health center, so they're still going to have their monthly fee. They pay $0 for those 4 days. Why is that? Exactly, because they're using their prepaid days, right? So now their prepaid day balance is 11. So after that 4-day stay, the resident went right back to their apartment and they did not return to the health center. So after 1 month, they'd accrue another day back to get them 12, and then another month. So it would take 4 months for them to get back up to the 15. Does that make sense? Okay. See, I like to have examples. It makes it a lot easier. Okay, so here's number 2. What if we have the same single resident? They stay 20 days in the health center, and their prepaid day balance is 15. They're still going to pay for their monthly fee, right? Because they're temporary. They're going to go back to their apartment. But they had to pay for 5 days. And why is that? Exactly. So they had 20 days there. So we used up their prepaid day balance. It's now 0. And then we just had to charge for 5 days. And what rate is that going to be at? The 60, because they're temporary, right? The 60%. A lot of residents get concerned about this. Well, I don't have it. Most of our residents don't end up, that's not the charge that we really charge the most. Most of the time, people use their prepaid days, they go back home. If it's a circumstance where they're there like a long time, they're probably going to be permanent. So that rate, that's the higher one, we don't utilize the most. Most of them that we use is the 40%, the permanent rates, and the 15. All right, so then that resident, after that 20-day stay, they went home and everything was fine. So how long is it going to take them to get their 15 days back? Exactly. So if there's no other occurrence, but along the way, if they, accrued, 10 days, and then they went back in the health center, you can use those days again, and then they just keep accruing back. So and when they go back to their residence, and they haven't gone back to the health center for a month, then they will accrue another day back. Okay? All right, so what does it look like if the resident then moves permanently into the health center? Because I have a lot of residents who will tell me they've been here for years, and they said, I have never used my prepaid days. And I said, yo, good for you. That means you were never sick, right? That is awesome. Well, that stinks. When do I get to use them? Right here. So if you become a permanent resident in the Health and Wellness Center, and you said, oh, I am so happy, now I'm going to be living in Cyprus, and that's my new address, you pay nothing for your independent living residence because you're not there, right? That's not your address. So then what happens is since they're there for the whole month, this is where we use your 15 days. The first 15 days are zero. The next 15 days are going to be at that lower rate, the permanent 40% rate. And now their prepaid day balance is zero, right? And they don't need to have that balance anymore because now that's where they live. So prepaid days are for independent living residents, right? And then as I said, if you're a resident of the health center, it's a daily rate. So the month, if it's a 28-day month, then you're going to have a different amount than a 30-day month or a 31-day month, okay? Because it's charged per day. Okay, this is the really confusing one to people. Yeah, this is the mental gymnastics. I didn't make up these rates. I wasn't here then. Okay. So if we have a couple and one resides in the apartment and one is permanently in the health center, your monthly bill for your independent living is not going to change. That stays the same. But the person who is in the health center permanently with their own room, 3 meals a day, 24 hours of care, they are going to pay the $91 a day, not the 200 and some. That's the really deep discounted couple rate. And so it's really what we think of as, for having that person there 24 hours a day, it's just an extra of the $91 a day. Now, it said to me, how come I have to pay the second person fee? This person isn't there. I said, well, if you do the math, you take out the second person fee, and then you're paying the single, the person in the health center has to pay the higher rate. It's more money. So I think you like it this way. So the way that we do it, you are having an even deeper discount for that, all right? If you are really, really, really interested in all of the things that are financial, I always put the information in the library. So if you go to the library, you know where the puzzle table is? Has people seen the puzzle table? Behind the puzzle table is all these shelves, and we have a lot of information there from the board minutes and other presentations. You'll find the financial information there too. I put the monthly financial statements there, occupancy statistics, quarterly investment performance, our budget, the audited financial statements, and the disclosure statement. That concludes my talk. Do you have any questions for me? Okay. Yes. Lucy. Right? Oh, no. Right. That's a good question. She's asking about her long-term care insurance. Okay. So, as any insurance broker would recommend, why do you have insurance? Because you have a risk, right? So it's going to depend upon your financial resources and your own financial standing. So if you're Bill Gates, although he got divorced, you probably don't need insurance. But if you do have long-term care insurance and you feel like that's something that you do need for that risk, the Forest at Duke is a licensed healthcare facility. So a lot of insurance companies, you need to be licensed AL, licensed skilled nursing. So that's not a problem. It also will help preserve your assets later on, because once you are in the health and wellness center, those long-term care policies will apply, and we will help you establish that with your long-term care company, because they ask for so much information you wouldn't have. So once we set that up, then all you need to do is just give them a copy of our bill and they reimburse you. So I don't know if residents are using their insurance because we bill you and then you get the money back. Where I know some communities a long time ago, especially if you're fee for service and the health center is like 15 grand a month, they usually require their residents to have long-term care insurance because you could go broke pretty fast. But we don't, but you can certainly use your benefits. Yep. And it's also good to have these rates here because I know a lot of long-term care companies residents come to me all the time and say, my premiums went up 50%. I said, well, if they didn't, I'd be worried. They need to go up something because if they're not, that should be a red flag because many people are using these benefits for longer than they ever thought they would. They are very actuarially looking at to make sure that those benefits are there for you when you need those. So that's why they're going up. But what you could look at is with our rates there, what is your daily rate? Is it a lot higher than that? Do you have an inflation factor? Are you like a 90-day wait or are you right away? Do you have unlimited benefits? I don't write those anymore. Do you have unlimited benefits or is there a 5-year cap? So there are things also that you can do to keep your insurance in force, but to possibly reduce the premiums. So that's just to consider. So that's good information. Mm-hmm. Yes. They may apply if you have those benefits. Yes. Mm-hmm. And the Forest at Home, they will actually help you with that too. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. What I have seen is that what they are going to reimburse is what we actually bill you. So if your policy is $250 a day and we're charging you 91, then you will be reimbursed 91. The good part about that is your benefits will last longer because usually there's a cap on not just the daily rate that they reimburse you, but for a maximum dollar amount as well. His question was regarding a long-term care policy. If their policy is, just say $250 a day is what your premium is paying for, but the facility is charging $90 or $100, or if they charge $500, they're going to reimburse you what is actually, if they charge $100, that's what they're going to reimburse, not the stated rate. Every policy is written different, and they require different things. I know that recently, just like any insurance company, they try not to pay benefits, so they make it harder and harder for people to submit what they want in order to be reimbursed for that. So our bill is itemized in a way that residents have been able to be reimbursed. I haven't seen anyone get reimbursed for anything more than what the daily rate is. Other policies may be different, but that's the way I've seen it work. Well, you can always write them a memo and see what they'll say. You could try that, yes. You would not pay your, well, they would each pay about the $7,000 a day. I mean, 7,000 a month. She wanted to know what if both people are in the health and wellness center. So in that case, each resident is going to pay the single 40% rate, which is the 200 and some dollars a day, which is around $7,000 a month. So it would be $14,000 a month for two. Hmm? Correct, with no monthly service fee. You listened, yes. Very good. Yes. Yes. As soon as you signed your contract. You got 15 days. Yes. No. It's 15 days in your bank. It's not calendar based. Good questions. Anybody else? No, we're not an insurance company. We operate like or an insurance product. Yes. Not really. For you? For the Forested Duke, for us, is 5 years. Because that is your contract is amortized fully. Right, for us, it'll be 50 months. Yes. Correct. Right. The actual cash of entry fees will be based on calendar year because you're a calendar year taxpayer. So it will be based on December 31st. No, the entry fee portion, when you get the letter, when you're a first year resident, if you are able to have the medical deduction on your taxes, you can use both portions of that letter. The monthly fee portion is the one that will be prorated based on how many months that you've been there, but the entry fee is the whole amount. So in your first year. Because long time ago, when they started these communities, like in the 70s and 80s, the tax law was very different on selling your home. Capital gains tax. And what most people do is when you pay your entry fee, you sell your home, right? So this was an ability for taxpayers that moved into these kind of communities that they would, in that first year, the medical deduction could hopefully offset some of that capital gains of selling their home. So that's how that works. So as a cash basis taxpayer, that entry fee, that whole amount that's on that letter is what you would apply your first year. Then after that, you just use the monthly. You're welcome. Good questions. Yes? Over 600. Yes. $500 to $600. We are that's why we're rated. We have a very good cash and liquidity. We're very strong financially. He wanted to know how many days cash on hand we have. And our bond compliance requires 120 days, and our bank that has the debt is a 250. So we're good. We have about 2 years worth of, right. So if we got no more money, I would be able to stay here for 2 more years and pay the bills. The last one out. Right. Good question. Yes. Exactly, exactly. I didn't want to muck up the stuff, but that is true. Like you continue to pay for your residence always, whether you move in the continuum from an independent living to the health center or from a cottage to an apartment, you pay, that residence until you're considered out and all of your things are out and you've had that walkthrough. So you could be paying for your independent apartment at the same time you're paying for the health center. Yes, that's true.
Can you wait just a moment and speak up so we can hear what you're asking?
Thank you. So for those of us who are new residents, we've paid a substantial entrance fee. And some percentage of that is treated as a medical expense, as I understand it. And what you seem to be saying, what you seem to be saying is, well, to start over again, those of us who are new residents have paid a substantial entry fee. Some percentage of that will be treated as a medical expense. And what you seem to be saying is that that percentage, whatever that amount comes out to, when you apply that percentage against the amount that we've paid, is deductible, or is treated as a medical expense, which is potentially deductible in 2025. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And it's also an average of all the fees that are collected for that year. So the IRS never tells you exactly what you're supposed to do, right? They say, okay, here's the law, and then the law isn't really written in a way that you can operate. So then the operators have to figure out, what do we do with this law? So for a long time, people were, taking this medical deduction themselves, figuring it out themselves, and it is what it is until they come and audit you, right? So, right? So it is what it is. So like anything in the IRS, when there's actually a tax case, then it goes to court. That's when they say, okay, we've had this tax ruling, so now this is how we're going to apply it. So in the letter, I think it does refer to, it's the Baker case. So what had happened is that there were communities that, it's like XYZ by the sea, this one by here, and you could imagine that they had these penthouses, huge independent living residences that were very large, millions of dollars of entry fees. So if you did it by an individual basis and they just applied a percentage to it, well, those people were getting a much higher medical deduction than the person in a small apartment. Does that make sense? Not really, because healthcare costs the same for everyone. It doesn't matter what you live in. So the IRS based that on, so now it's an average of all of the fees that are collected so that it evens that out, and it's not based upon a larger or a smaller residence. So it's an average. So you can do what you want on your taxes. I don't know, but what is preferred is to use the letter. And then your tax accountants would like that because then they don't have to have all these receipts and all this other stuff. They go, oh, here's a letter, that's the amount I use. And that'd be that. Must be a lot of accountants in here. You got a lot of good accounting questions. Anybody else? Okay, good.
I don't want this because I can't say it succinctly. You were talking about the way we were organized financially initially and mentioned the debt payments that the forest has to pay. What are the things that the forest is in debt for?
Building the buildings.
Is that the only thing?
Yes, yes. We have bonds for building the buildings, and so we have 3 outstanding debt series that, we have the 2017 series, which is still a carryover from the initial building of the property in 1990. And then we recently have the health center that we built, and then now the terraces building. So we have 3. Yep. Let's see, it's around 95, over 100 million. What is the total of the debt that we have? It's about 100 million. 7.5 million annual debt service. We don't have retained earnings as we're not a corporate, we're not like IBM. So as a nonprofit, we just call that your net assets, whether you have a deficit or whether you are in a surplus. Correct. Yeah. The difference with a nonprofit is, as I said, the famous nun said, no margin, no mission, is that the difference with a nonprofit is that anything that's left over, there's really not like left over. We reinvest in ourselves. We don't have to pay that out to shareholders, but we're able to use that to enhance the property, enhance what we do for all of the residents here. Good question. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate it.